Newsflash. For the first time ever, governments are putting rules on AI. All right, artificial intelligence. The European Union just rolled out the EU AI Act, and in the US, the Trump administration is pushing bold new executive orders to supercharge AI infrastructure. We're talking deep fakes, data collections, higher hiring algorithms, all potentially facing regulation. So what's going to change? We have, what is that going to mean for creators and everyday folks? All right, let's unpack it. Here's the deal. All right, the deal is the EU AI Act is one of the first sweeping digital safety laws for AI. It applies a risk-based framework banning certain dangerous uses. Dangerous uses and setting rules for high-risk systems. So a source that we have here that I'm gonna just get y'all can look at this with me. Source is EU's prohibited AI systems, Chapter 2, Article 5, specifics, list of practices banned. So to say, some of them are manipulative techniques, social scoring, biometric inference, and of sensitive attributes. All right. So meanwhile, in the midst of that, in the U.S. So this is I'm gonna provide all of these. Y'all already know. In the U.S., President Trump signed Executive Order 14179 on January 23rd, 2025. So this is actually, as you can see up there, this has actually been going on for quite some time, which is to my surprise, and you're gonna see why, because I'm gonna do another video talking about how will.i.am is actually asking for regulation for AI, right? So this order, as you see, is called Removing Barriers to American Leadership in Artificial Intelligence, right? Aiming to streamline regulation, support infrastructure, and review or revoke former policies that are seen as obstacles, right? So that's what all of this is. Of course, you guys know I'm gonna let y'all dive into that as I provide the source. What we're going to break down as of today, we're going to break down what's actually regulated, right? What both regions have in common, and what it means for creators like you and myself. So this is a quick wake up moment for us all. And I was reading, about EU's rules and saw they're already prohibiting practices like emotion recognition, right? In sensitive settings, certain biometric based profiling. You also have that they're regulating social scoring, manipulative and deceptive techniques. All of that is here, right? And that's, it's also here on org.com. It's where the background information is, right? So in the US, there's been a rebranding, which we're going to get into the Verge here. It's not even working properly. Oh, here we go. As we get into the Verge, in the US, there's been a rebranding or repurposing. The AI Safety Institute, created under Biden, has now been renamed to the Center for AI Standards and Innovation, the CAISI, right? Per press reports, with a shift in focus. So that's when it hit me. The AI Wild West is ending, right? So there's going to be a point where how we're using AI is not it's not going to be like that forever. We're not just talking tech now. We're talking law, right? So the EU AI Act it frames AI use by risk level. So that means it's unacceptable risk, prohibited practices, right? Includes things like deceptive or manipulative techniques, right? So social, like, I mean, we've gone over this already. Social scoring, biometric categorization of sensitive attributes, stuff like race, religion, political beliefs, the sensitive topics that a lot of people don't like to get into. Emotion recognition in certain contexts, remote by biometric identification in public spaces, which is like real time. Expect under narrow exceptions, and that comes in with law enforcement when serious risk, right? And that, or it gets into it all, it breaks it all down for y'all, right? So as we further get into it, the high risk systems, let me see if I got that up here, right here. The high risk systems, those with significant impact, like medical AI, hiring or worker selection, critical infrastructure, will need strong oversight, testing, transparency, etc. Right, and that's what all of this gets into. There are lawsuits happening based upon this, right? General purpose AI, GPAI models, like language models, or basically LLMs, or other language or other large models that can be adapted to many risks, will have transparent. Oh, I got like a burp or like a bubble in my chest or something. That can be adapted to many risks, will have transparency obligations, right? And that's like documentation of training data, summaries, risk assessments, so to say. These transparency rules kick in after some time, right? And penalties, right? So the question mark there is companies could face lines up to 35 million, or what we like to say to make it seem smaller, 7% of global turnover, right? For the worst violations, prohibited practices, or high risk breaches. Lesser but still heavy fines for lower violations, right? So in the US, priorities are shifting too. So what's happening is, it's like what it seems like is that Europe is ahead of the game, and the US is catching up, right? That's kind of what it seems like. And with Trump's executive order, as we go back to that, with his executive order, it's intended to promote U.S. leadership in AI by removing or revising federal rules and regulations seen as obstacles to innovation, right? So that includes revoking or reviewing parts of Biden's earlier AI policy. So basically, what's transpiring right now is that whatever Biden had in place, that's gonna be reconstructed, right? Particularly Executive Order 14110, right, from October 2023. I think we mentioned it earlier here. So the EO, which we got to find out what that is. Executive order. I'm pretty sure that's what that means. All right. So the EO requires agencies to develop AI action plans within 180 days. And also calls for aligning many policies like procurement, export controls, workforce development. So to say, to accelerate AI growth and reduce regulatory friction, right? So the renaming of AI Safety Institute to CAISI, which we talked about earlier, Center for AI Standards and Innovation, signals a shift in public reframing priorities, right? So from broad safety ethical regulation toward emphasizing standards, innovation, and national security type roles. And that information is over here, right? So what this means is, basically less emphasis for now on some safety ethical guardrails that were being proposed under, previous administrations, moral infrastructure, competition, and positioning in U.S. in global AI norms. So how is it stacked up? Right? Let's talk about how it's stacked up for a minute. And this is what combining all of the sources that we went over. So in Europe, I'm about to say in the EU, but in Europe, what's transpiring over there, they're banning harmful AI practices, right? In the US, they're reviewing and revoking prior rules. So, I guess US already had it in place, but they're having to kind of catch up to the way that Europe is doing it. Then you have in Europe, they have transparency and audits for high risk systems, and over in US, there's a policy shift from Biden era safety, right? So last but not least, there are heavy penalties heavy penalties and phased enforcement. So I won't get into the technicalities of that percentage because we did talk about it previously. And then in the US, there are action plan deadlines, 180 days or so, right? So it's protection versus acceleration at this point as the central tension in AI governance. Okay, so the bigger picture, what is all of this about here, right? AI policy isn't just legal; it's a statement of values, right? And my framework is protect fundamental rights, no discrimination, dark patterns, or invasion of privacy. Europe is strong here, right? And US is pulling back somewhat in some areas. So promote innovation. So that's why I can't wait till the next video I'm gonna do. It talks about how will.i.am is like, the idea is to protect creativity, right? And I think that's kind of where promote innovation comes in at. Support infrastructure and creative uses. And the U.S. executive order is heavy on that part of it. Balance speed with accountability, fast deployment plus transparency plus oversight. All right. So, bottom line is AI is no longer unregulated territory, right? It's now governed by laws, and that will affect how we work, imagine, and create. For a lot of us, we kind of love that freedom with AI, but also for a lot of us, the freedom is it's just too freeing. Everything's somewhere in these lines and regulations and morals and all of that, right? But anyway, if this breakdown helped you, make sure you hit like. You feel me? And make sure you comment below. Do you think regulation is overdue or a drag on innovation? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear your side. Hit like so you can stay informed and inform more people, right? And subscribe for more grounded takes on how technology policies shape our world, right? Stop searching, start solving, and I will catch you all at the next one.